I don't know what it is about this content, but I love the derivative of the inverse function. And I'm going to recommend that you not memorize the result. A lot of teachers will say, a lot of professors will say, hey, memorize this. How about understand how to get the formula every time? That's what I'm going to go over with you. Then we're going to do a couple practice problems. In general, if f of x is differentiable and its inverse, g of x, is differentiable, then the derivative of the inverse g prime of x is... So what I'm saying is let's let g of x basically be f inverse. I don't love to use that notation, so I'm going to let g of x equal f inverse of x. What we want is the derivative of g. That's our goal. So we want the derivative of g. How do we find that? Let's take the derivative of this, but let's start here. We'll start with the fact that if f and g are inverses, we know that composing them will give us x. Then I'm going to take a derivative of both sides with respect to x, right? That's going to generate g prime. Watch what happens here. Oh, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Chain rule here. You're going to take the derivative of the outside. That's f prime of g of x times the derivative of the inside. The inner function is g of x. And that's going to be equal to the derivative of x, which is 1. Now what we want is the derivative of g. So we'll solve for that and divide by this because we don't want all of that. We want g prime alone. And that's equal to 1 divided by f prime of g of x. And that is a beautiful thing. That's your formula. So if you must memorize it, fine, but otherwise, I derive it every time, fresh. I'll be doing that in the examples too. Okay, so now I've got this. Just in case your teacher uses f inverse notation, your answer will look like this. It'll be f inverse, it's kind of funky, prime of x. Yeah, that's why I like using g. Is equal to 1 over f prime of f inverse of x. All right. Okay, so what this means is we can now find the slope of the inverse function without actually having to find the inverse function, which is a pain to sometimes near impossible or impossible. All right, let's keep grooving. So we got 2 examples in this video, and we're getting to them right now. It says if f of x is equal to 4 over x plus 2, and g is the inverse of f, then g prime of 10 is equal to, All right, so g is the inverse of f, and I'm telling you, you may not find f inverse of x, so you can't find g. Start out with this fact again, that f of f inverse, or f of g of x, I'm going to use g of x notation, I always do, is equal to x. We want the derivative of g, so just first take the derivative of both sides. I told you I'm going to generate it every time. Derivative of the outside times the derivative of the inside is equal to 1. Nice. Now solve for g prime. So I got g prime of x is equal to 1 over f prime of g of x. Solve for what you want. So we're going to use that function there. You want g prime of 10, so plug in 10. There's nothing to memorize here. Just find what is being asked. Plug in 10 and see what is left. The problem will guide you as to what you need to do. So we get f prime of g of 10. Nice. So don't memorize what comes up next, as I said. It's telling you, the problem's telling you, find g of 10. That's why I went over those blob ideas, right? Where's g in all this? Where's 10? F sends us from x to y, right? That's where f sends us. G sends us back. So if we want g of 10, 10 is existing over here. And that therefore is a y value to f because it's an x value to g. And remember, x and y switch in inverses. That's the important part. So to find g of 10 really means when the y value on f is 10, what's the x value? The x value on f will be that g value that we want. So that's what we want. So I've got then, we'll do a little bit of side work here, 10 is equal to 4 over x plus 2. Oh, very nice, very nice. If you need to listen to that again, do it. I know the explanation's there for you anytime you need it. Subtract 2, we'll get 8 equals 4 over x. And when we solve, we'll get 8x is equal to 4, x is equal to 1/2. So we have found that when 10 is in g, we get out 1/2. So g of 10 is 1/2. Keep following this. Keep unpeeling this onion. It's delicious math onion. All right, so f prime, whatever that was, f prime of 1/2 is what we want. So let's do it. Follow the directions. We want the derivative of f, and we're going to plug in 1/2. So f prime, well, that's 4x to the minus 1 plus 2. The derivative of that is not bad. F prime of x is equal to, Negative 1 times 4 is negative 4, x to the minus 2. And the derivative of 2 is 0. Sweet. So that's negative 4 over x squared. All right, we want f prime of 1/2. Again, I'm just going to do the work out to the side here because that's what the cookbook's telling us to do. F prime of 1/2, as the result of plugging that in, you'll get negative 1/4 all over 1/2 squared. That's negative 4 divided by 1/4. Division by 1/4 is the same as multiplying by 4. That's going to be equal to negative 16. So negative 1/16 is your answer. That's it. So in other words, start out with your general identity of what it is inverse functions are about. And check that out from the first video. I go over that in a little, for a little bit. But then from there, take the derivative and follow what the problem tells you to do. This key idea with the blob, that's huge. So watch that again if you need to. All right, we got one more problem. It's written in a slightly different way, but it really is very, very similar. Okay, and how do we deal with this kind of a juggernaut, right? Because it is a nasty problem, but we'll deal with it. All right, we will deal. Okay, so it says find f inverse prime of negative 11 if f of x equals that. All right, so here's the first thing. I'm going to let that equal g. All right, so let's just let g equal f inverse. And so what we're really doing is we want g prime of negative 11. I'll start out again. The same idea. F of g of x is equal to x. The derivative is the derivative of the outside times the derivative of the inside, g prime of x. And that's equal to the derivative of x, which is 1. G prime of x is equal to 1 over f prime of g of x. All right, so now from here, all I've got to do is plug in negative 11, because that's what I'm asked to do next. I want g prime of negative 11. So g prime of negative 11, we'll keep going until we hit a dead end here, is 1 over f prime of g of negative 11. Okay, we're not at a dead end yet. We want negative 11 here. If you got to think of the blobs, that's fine. F sends values this way. F inverse, or g, sends values back. So we're plugging in negative 11 into this space. And we're asking, what is that value? Well, that'd be the y value on f. So we'll go off to the side here. We've got negative 11 equals 1/27 times x to the 5th plus 2x cubed. And you might be looking at that like, what? How would I be able to figure that out? Okay, well, first of all, you'd be allowed a calculator to be able to find the intersection of this function and that function to get a number. So on a test, you'd be allowed a calculator, 1. And 2, they wouldn't have something this nasty set up this way on the A, B, or BC exam or on one of your tests without a calculator, I promise. So I'll be back with you in a moment with the exact x value that we want. And through the power vested in my awesome video editing skills, I got x equals negative 3. Right, again, I'm just finding the intersection of this function and that function, and it does equal out. So we get x equals negative 3, so that's g of negative 11. So we get 1 over f prime of negative 3. Keep following what this is telling you to do. It's now saying find the derivative of f at negative 3. Fine, we'll do that. So f prime of x is this thing. So that's going to be equal to 1/27 times the derivative is 5x to the 4th plus 6x squared. And we're going to plug negative 3 into that thing, and that's going to be awful. So we've got 1/27 times 5 times negative 3 to the 4th is 81 plus negative 3 squared is 9 times 6 is 54. So this actually, believe it or not, simplifies down to something really nice. And I'm going to do a little bit of mental math here. Check this out. 1/27 and 81 divide out to give you 3 times 5 is 15. 54 divides in 27 twice. So believe it or not, this ends up being your answer, 17. And so this is 1 over that number that we just got out. That was f prime of x, and then this right here was f prime of negative 3. So that's 1 over 17. Done. I'll see you one more video on an AB/BC level challenge problem. Stoked for that one. Peace.